Hello everyone, it's a pleasure to be here to present to you UTOPIA. UTOPIA is a user-friendly tool to identify trade movements at risk when a disease emerges in a trading partner country. To understand the usefulness of this tool, it's important to understand that when a foreign country declares the emergency of an animal disease, its trading partners want to assess if animals or products of animal origin potentially carrying this pathogen have been imported into their country. Investigation of traceability data can meet this need. Traceability data is a regulatory European database for legal movements involving at least one European country. These data are comprehensive and detailed and up-to-date, but their structure are complex, the querying procedure can be laborious, and their analysis can lead to error through misuse. So the aim of this project was to develop a tool to use traceability data to respond to a crisis, an emergency situation. To do so, we first requested access to traceability to the European Commission. This access was granted to us in early 2023. And in order to get to grips with traceability, we've had discussion with various partners, including persons from border control, who know how the various fields of traceability were used in practice. Furthermore, throughout all the process, we've held discussion with the Ministry of Agriculture and the French Epidemic Intelligence team to understand their needs as identified users of the tool. And then, finally, we've developed the tool to analyze the traceability data, so to identify among all movements that have taken place between the country where the disease emerged and France, for our example, we can identify all the movements that have taken place and that could have carried the pathogen. This tool was named UTOPIA for User Tool for Outbreak Prevention and Introduction Assessment. So let's see a practical example of UTOPIA's use. In September 2023, outbreaks of blue tongue serotype 3 were detected and declared in the Netherlands, and the French Epidemic Intelligence team wanted to assess if there was a risk of blue tongue being introduced into France through animal trade in the 2 months prior to detection in the Netherlands. So we have looked at movements involving live animals and semen of ruminants, because ruminants are the animals susceptible to blue tongue. This request was made in UTOPIA in a Earthshiny interface, where the user can inform the tool what is the country with emergency, the country of interest, the period to investigate, and the disease. The disease is linked to susceptible species and susceptible products, but user can change this preselection if needed. Then, user can upload traceability data, as well as FAO-Stat and Eurostat data, to have more information on the population of animals in the country where the disease emerged. For example, with Eurostat data, users were informed that France was only the 5th main importer of live ruminants from the Netherlands, but that Belgium was the first one, so that maybe the French Epidemic Intelligence team wanted to have a closer look at what was happening in Belgium to be sure that maybe they were at risk for the introduction of blue tongue. And actually, data shown that Belgium, Germany, and the United Kingdom were the first countries to declare blue tongue importation after the Netherlands. So But let's see how Utopia is used for the analysis of traces in T data. So for this example, 20 movements from the Netherlands to France have been isolated and identified by Utopia. In this table, the user can have information on the species, the merchandise, the purpose of merchandise, as well as the number of live animals and the number of seminal straws that were included in these movements. The names of the cities from the Netherlands and from France were analyzed with air package to know the associated administrative region for doing maps. With this example, flow movements were made on a map, as well as a network diagram and a graph representing the data of the table. And all of these outputs were read by experts from the French epidemic intelligence team. They found that all departure of movements involving susceptible merchandise were all located at least 100 kilometers from reported cases. And in addition, as you may have seen, most of the movements were involving germplasm, so semen. And the experts knew that semen collection centers were testing for blue tongue. So for both these reasons, the risk of introduction of blue tongue from the Netherlands to France was considered very low at this moment. Other examples of requests to Utopia have been made in the following month. Utopia allows for requests involving any animal disease, any declared merchandise, and any country of declaration. Each time, the request enabled for a rapid risk evaluation and helped the Ministry of Agriculture, the French Ministry of Agriculture, to identify animals that may need an investigation and a monitoring to know if following cases could happen in France. In addition to being useful in crisis, Utopia allows for another functionality, that is the description of a report, an annual report, that make a classification of 10 diseases according to their risk of introduction into France and their risk of dissemination after introduction into France, for live animals and for animals and for products from animal origin. This evaluation takes a lot more calculations than the first functionality, and it is based on traces in T data, obviously, but also on WAIS data for the information of the circulation of these diseases in the world, as well as information of disease-related parameters that can be found in the literature and that were also based on expert opinion. This functionality was adapted from the RAT tool that was developed by colleagues from the Netherlands. And I would like to thank Klaas-Jan de Vos that had helped us to adapt this tool to our French situation. So what I want you to remember from Utopia is that it can provide two independent functions, one for emergency and one for peaceful time. It is a rapid and user-friendly tool. It has already been used by the French epidemic intelligence team, and it can be easily adapted for other European users. Its main constraints are the constraints made by traces in T data, because it's confidential data So you will need an authorization from the European Commission to use this data. And these data are only a small part of what's happening. So it's only the declared movement. It's not taking into account the illegal movements as well as vector on the wildlife movements. The future step for this project is to publish a dashboard and publish an article on Utopia. I would like to thank all of the colleagues that have helped us to do a useful and valid tool, and I would like to thank you for your attention.